Story. So the Holy Spirit just put the story in my head. Yeah. So I don't know what to call the story. Maybe I'm going to call it dated, or the thrift store. I don't know what to call it. But essentially, the story is that our protagonist, yeah, she has a date, right? So before a date, right, she decides to a day before a date, right? Oh, so on the day of her date, essentially, she decides to go to. She gets her hair done. She gets her nails done, and then she goes to the beach. Okay, so let's say it like this. A day before a date, right? She goes to a thrift store to pick like a dress for the date. Yeah, she and her boyfriend, the guy she was going on the date with, they went to like a thrift store. The guy took her to a thrift store, and then the guy was like, he was going to pick out an outfit for her for the date. Yeah, so when he got to the thrift store, they started trying they saw different kinds of clothes, and then she saw this like she saw this like she saw a mannequin essentially, and then on the mannequin was like, she saw a dress, and the dress was on a mannequin. It was like, there was nothing spectacular about the dress. It was this nice sundress, yeah, and nobody wears like a sundress or like a dinner date, but the guy was very attracted to the dead dress, and because the mannequin actually looked like her, right? She and the mannequin, they looked alike. So the guy was like, hey, look at this mannequin in this thrift store that is wearing this sundress. I want you to wear this sundress. And the girl was like, no, it's a dinner date. Let me get like a classic black dress that people wear for a date. And the guy was like, no, he wants the dress from the mannequin, right? So they went towards the mannequin, and lo and behold, the mannequin actually looked very much like her. And so she was trying to like take the sundress off the mannequin so that she can go and try it on. And then she discovered that the mannequin there was something also weird about the mannequin, which was that the mannequin was wearing like a necklace, right? And the necklace had like this weird pendant. The mannequin was wearing a necklace essentially. This like it was like silver, right? But you could see that the silver had corroded, right? It was just there was nothing special about the necklace. It was just like this necklace around her neck, chain essentially around her neck, and it was like corroded. It looked like it had seen like it had seen it. It looked ancient. It looked like it had seen a lot of time, right? So the girl took the girl took the sundress, and then she also took the necklace, and then she wore it, right? And then she tried the sundress on, and then the guy was like, "Oh, it's pretty." And when she came out, the guy was so happy. He swept her off the ground and carried her and spun her around, and was like, "Oh my God, this is so nice! I want you to wear this." Everybody in the thrift store was so happy. The woman selling the owner of the thrift store, she was like, "Oh," she was just going and all the girls in the thrift store. So she didn't even take off. The guy was like, she should not even take off the sundress. Like, she just wear the sundress and go home. So she didn't take off the sundress. They just went straight to check out, and they checked out like that. They just paid for the sundress. The guy even tipped like the women at the owner of the thrift store, and she just went home like that. So they left the mannequin like that, alone like that, right? So when she got home, she now realized that she realized that she forgot to take off the necklace, that the pendant, the necklace that the mannequin that she saw on the mannequin, right? So she was thinking that, does the pendant come with the sundress, or does she have to drop the necklace back? And she was like, oh well, she actually likes the necklace, so she kept wearing it, right? So the next day, which was supposed to be the day of the date, she had like her itinerary ironed out. She was going to like she was going to get her nails done. She was going to spend some time at the beach, get her nails done, get her hair done, put some highlights in it, and then by that time it should be late, and then she'll go for that date, right? Okay, cool. So she went to the beach, and then she sat under a coconut tree. And while she was sitting on the coconut tree, a coconut fell and hit her on the head, and then she died essentially. But in her mind, she thinks she died, but in real life, she actually didn't die. She just entered a coma, right? But when she opened her eyes, right, she saw like her body lying down, lifelessly on under the tree, and the coconut was just beside her. Then she saw like the people at the beach panicking, and it was the lifeguards that first came to her, and then eventually they called 911. They called like emergency services, and then they came to sweep her off, and they put her inside the ambulance, and she was just watching everything going on. And then in a split second there, she just noticed that she was in a thrift store again, right? And then she realized that she was not just in a thrift store, she was in the exact spot she was looking out the show glass, and then she looked at her body, but this time she was wearing the same sundress she was wearing that she had bought the day before, but this was another color, right? So she was like, this is weird. And then she was like, this is weird, right? She turned her head and said, this is weird. And then the person in the thrift store, the girl, the woman at the thrift store that sold her something the day before, she just started shouting, ah, 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 ah. And then she fell on the floor, she stood up and she ran out. She just managed to run out, right? And then she was shouting, and then she went to call people that the mannequin is talking, the mannequin is alive. And then that's when the girl quickly realized that she had now possessed the body of the mannequin, right? The mannequin at the thrift store. So she was like, you know what? She's just going to so people rushed into the thrift store, right? And they were like, so she immediately knew that she had to act like a mannequin. So she just stopped talking. She just stopped talking, stopped looking. She just looked straight. And so everybody ran inside, and they were like, and then the woman was like, yeah, she was panting, she was pointing at the mannequin. She's like, sorry, have you watched this movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers? There's this guy at the end that just pointed and shouted, ah! Just imagine that kind of pointing. That's how that woman was. She just pointed at the mannequin, and she was like, ah! She just opened her mouth. and then she was like telling everybody that she could dash. It turned its head and spoke, and people were like, they went to the mannequin, they put his hand down, put it there, turned it. Like, it's just a mannequin. It's not alive, right? And that the woman was, maybe she needed to calm down. So they blamed it on the sun, because this was dead in the middle of summer, right? So they blamed it on the sun. They said the sun was, that year, the sun in, which city should we use for this? I don't want this to be America. Let's not use that. Don't be telling stories only in America. Let's use another city. Let's see, which city we use. Which city has a beach? Let's just use Venice Beach. I don't know. We'll just use Venice Beach. So let's say Venice, essentially. Okay, cool. So that's why she realized that. So they blame it on. So the sun in California, that in Los Angeles that year was extremely. Let's use Myrtle Beach. Let's use Myrtle Beach because I was in North Carolina. So let's use Myrtle Beach. So in Myrtle Beach, essentially, I hope I'm saying it correctly. So the sun in Myrtle Beach was extremely. In North Carolina that year was extremely high. So they was it's because of the heat wave that got to the woman, right? So the woman she just wouldn't budge, right? She was like, no, she saw it turn his head and speak, right? Yeah. So she was like, that she cannot that the mannequin is possessed, that they have to throw it away. So they took the mannequin, and then she put it outside of our shop, right? And then there was a customer. Then 5 minutes after that, yeah, and then there were still people inside the store that were attending to the woman and trying to calm her down, right? So 5 minutes after that, there was another girl that drove by, yeah. She was actually trying to open her own. She was also trying to open her own thrift store, yeah, but she could not afford it. Essentially, I don't want to use the word afford. Essentially, what we're trying to do is that there's this girl that found the mannequin and took it home. Okay, cool. You know what we'll do? Yeah? Okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. So, thank you, Holy Spirit. So, I said that the girl's boyfriend, yeah? Again, I'm not going to name characters here. The girl's boyfriend, right? Her boyfriend, yeah, the protagonist's boyfriend, yeah, he took her to the mannequin shop the day before. Yeah, to the thrift store the day before, right? Okay, cool. So his sister, so he has his younger sister essentially, right? Is this girl that came back to the store. Okay, cool. So this is what happened, right? So when the guy got home, he told his sister about like what do we call the guy? Let's call him Jack, right? Let's just be generic about everything. So Jack and Jill, right? The protagonist, her name is Jill. The name of her boyfriend is Jack, the guy she's going on a date with. And Jack has like a little sister called Jane, right? Okay, cool. So when Jack gets home, Jack tells his little sister Jane that he saw this, like him and Jill, they are going on a date. And Jane was like, okay, what should I do about it? And then Jack started like, and they are going with, and Jill is going to wear this really nice sundress, right? She's going to wear this really nice sundress, right? And then she showed, and that the sundress looks so nice on her that in fact he wants like Jane to also get the sundress for herself because it looks really nice on her, right? So he took her brother's iPhone and then he showed Jane, his little sister, the photo he took of the sundress. And then Jane was like, she actually likes the sundress. Maybe not as a dinner, something to wear for dinner, but she thinks that, it's summer, she'll just wear it to like her friend's house the next day. That is not like dinner material. It's just some stuff like it's just like a casual sundress. Okay, cool. So Jack gave his little sister Jane the address of the shop, right? So Jane went back. So the next day, Jane went to the shop to pick up the sundress, right? To pick up and hopefully find like another sundress like that. So when she got there, she discovered that she saw the mannequin outside, lying down on the floor, face down, right? And then there was the sundress that she came to buy, but it was another color, right? So she went inside and spoke to the woman at the thrift store, and the woman couldn't attend to her. So it was another woman there that was talking to her, another girl there that was talking to her, and the girl was like, "What does she want?" It was like, "Oh, she wants to buy the sundress outside." And then they were like, "Oh," so they told her the price, yeah. And then she was trying, and then the woman was like, "No, she should take everything." Then the woman in the owner of the store, right? Of the thrift store, she was like shouting that she should take everything. She should take this. She should take the mannequin. She should take the sundress. She should take everything. So she took the money. So she was like, "This is weird." So she opened the back of her Toyota. What does she drive, Holy Spirit? I don't know. What kind of cars do girls drive? Girls don't drive. There's this truck that a lot of girls drive. There's this YouTuber I used to watch, all the feral phones, right? There's this truck that she drives, right? It's the same truck that is that same type of truck. I think it's a Chevrolet, but it's a very old Chevrolet. I think it's from 1976 or 1978. There's this other girl too, Indica Flower on my Instagram that also drives that truck. But our own version is cyan, right? Our own version of the truck is cyan. Essentially, that truck. We're going to use that truck. I think it's the Chevrolet, right? The Chevrolet, right? So she took the mannequin and dumped it inside the Chevrolet, right? At the back of, in the trunk of the Chevrolet. And then she drove off to her house, yeah? Okay, cool. So when she got home, by the way, Jack and Jane, they are living together in the same house, right? So when she got home, Jack was in the driveway, was going out for, by that time Jack was in the driveway, yeah? And so he told Jane that, she kept him waiting, that he wanted to he didn't want to just leave the house like that. He wanted to hand over the keys to her because usually they will keep the key under the doormat, right? And he was like, no, he doesn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that time. That he just wanted to hand the keys over to her. That he had been waiting for her. That why did she keep him so long? That she knows that he told her the day before that he has like a date. And Jane was like, I'm sorry. He was like, I'm sorry. Then he tossed the key to her and then he drove off in his, what kind of car does he drive? He drives a truck. Let's say he drives a pickup truck. So he also drives a truck, right? So he drove off in his truck, and then Jane, sorry, before he drives off here, he asked, okay, no, let's it like this. So he drives up in his pickup shop, and then she takes the dress, essentially. He takes the mannequin, right? And then she goes upstairs. She drags the mannequin inside the house and takes it upstairs, right? Then she takes the sundress off the mannequin. So she takes the mannequin and takes it upstairs and just like puts it in her room like that. In the attic. No, it's in the attic. She puts it in the attic, right? And then she just closes the door and comes down and goes downstairs, right? She locks the door to the attic. So immediately the door of the attic locks, right? Our protagonist, Jill, she's just like, she let out a huge sigh of relief. She was like, ah. that she could be she's herself again. She looked at her hand. She was like, oh my god, she's actually a mannequin, right? Her legs and everything. She looked at her hand. She was like, oh my god. She's actually a mannequin, right? Because there was this mirror. There's this like, it's an attic. So there's like all this. This is where attics is where people like basement and attics is where people like dump all the old furniture, old stuff that they have. So there's a lot of old like furniture at the attic. So inside the attic, there's also a old mirror there, right? So she was looking at the mirror. She was looking at herself in the mirror. So like, oh my god, she's a fucking mannequin, right? Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have cursed. That she's a mannequin. She's looking at herself. And then she now realized that, and then while she was now looking at herself, she now saw like old family photos. But she wanted to know the house she was in because she didn't understand. She doesn't know Jane, right? She doesn't know Jane at all, right? So she was like, okay, which house is she in? So on there was an old like vanity mirror where she was checking herself out. So on the vanity mirror, there was this like album, this old album, dated album that had been collecting dust with a lot of books, other books inside on the table, right? So she picked up the album and then she started looking through the album and then she saw all the childhood photos of Jack's family. So Jack when he was a child, him and Jane and their mom and their dad. So she saw all the family pictures and she was like going, oh, and it was very cute. And she was like looking through all the photos one by one. She even saw like Jack's first girlfriend when he was in high school, everything. She saw all the photos, like all the family photos, right? Okay, cool. So as she was looking through the family photos, right, she just had like a door slam, boom. Yeah, she had banging on the door, bah, 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 bah. So apparently Jack had come home, right? But he came home drunk, right? So his sister opened the door and he was like, oh, you're drunk again. And he was like, and this was like, how was your date? It was like, there was no date, that she stood him up, right? And that you could have seen that they had something going on, that they were connected, right? So, and then she was not like, is that why he has gone back to drinking again? And he just didn't answer her, right? So he was just tumbling around the house, yeah. Now, Jack's family, yeah. So Jack had bought some wine. So Jack has this tradition of like, he's like really into wine, right? So he uses their attic as like a cellar. Do you understand? So he stores like, he buys wine and then he stores wine for like a decade essentially. So he doesn't necessarily, so he buys wine, yeah, and then he doesn't drink that wine until like 10 years time. Do you understand? So, but he has like a lot of wine. So the cellar is filled with like wine bottles, right? Like crates of wine that he bought like last decade, right? So each time he buys, so this is how he does it. When he consumes a bottle of wine, he replaces that bottle of wine with a new bottle of wine, essentially, right? So, but the new bottle of wine he replaces it with, he's not going to open that bottle of wine until like a decade's time. Okay, cool. So that's how he does it. So there's this wine he bought like when he was 16. So let's just say he's 26 now. So he was like, he asked his sister where the key for the attic is. He was very drunk, and his sister was like, he's drunk, that he wants to keep drinking again. He was like, no, that where's the key of the attic, right? His sister locked the door. He kept banging the door. Bah, 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 bah. So when his sister saw that he wanted to break down that door, right? She took the key she opened the door, took the key of the attic, threw it at him, and then locked the door, right? And then she started playing loud music. So the guy took the key, and then he stumbled into the attic, and then he opened the door. Now the first thing he saw when he stumbled into the attic was that he saw our protagonist Jill, but notice she's a mannequin, right? So it was like, wait, yeah, I think I've seen this before, yeah. But it was, it was drunk, so he couldn't. His mind, he wasn't sure. He thought when he first saw it, he was sure it was a mannequin that he saw yesterday. He had seen that mannequin, that face somewhere before, right? And then and then he was he was drunk, so he was tumbling. So we wanted to fall, and then Jill decided to like help him to not fall, right? So when she moved, right, he was convinced that it's Jill. So he was saying stuff like, so but in the Bible, yeah, there's this part in the Bible where they were taking like, I think they were transporting the Ark of the Covenant, and then they got somewhere, and then the Ark of the Covenant wanted to fall, and there was this guy that tried to help the Ark of the Covenant, and then God killed that guy. So yeah, okay, cool. So something like that. What happened here? So Jane wanted to Jack wanted to fall, and then she just quickly caught him. Yeah, she helped him, but she didn't die. But this one's already dead, so it kind of mirrors that guy. Okay, cool. So she caught him, right? And then when Jack saw that she moved, right? You know, it was drunk. It was like a mannequin is moving, and then he now so he was like, no, it's actually Jane. It's actually his girlfriend Jill. So he was asking her that, oh, why did she stand him up? Why did she stand him up? Why didn't she like? Why did she leave him? That was like waiting at that he just sat alone at the table at the restaurant and people were laughing at him. He was saying all those things. That he spent like an hour sitting there by himself. And Jill was just apologizing to him that she's sorry. And then she closed the door of the attic. And then they just stayed in the attic together. So Jack slept off, and then Jill slept by his side, right? So the next morning, yeah, Jack woke up, and then he saw that it was lying next to the mannequin, right? But it was a mannequin, right? It wasn't real, yeah. So he went downstairs and he just sat down. He held his head because he had a hangover, right? So his sister was like, he should stop drinking. That his drinking is leading to psychosis, because like yesterday she had him crying and talking to somebody, and he was mentioning Jill, that he needs to get over the Jill girl, that if a girl stands you up, right, for dinner, it means she doesn't like you. And then he was like, he actually saw her yesterday and she was talking to him. And she was like, no, he's drunk. That this is why he said that he needs to see a doctor, that she can arrange like, that he has trauma, suffering from PTSD, that she can arrange like a meeting with her therapist for him, yeah. And if the therapist cannot solve the problem, then he'll see a psychiatrist that he's having problems. But people, no, like for real, that he saw that the mannequin upstairs is spoke to him, and the mannequin looks a lot like his date Jill, and then he spoke to him, and then his sister was like, wait, what? The mannequin spoke to him, yeah, and he was like, yeah, that the mannequin spoke to him, and sister was like, well, that's weird, because at the store yesterday where she bought the sundress, yeah, that she found the mannequin face down lying outside, that the store owner too was like afraid that the mannequin was talking. That was the accusation, and the store keeper was very, very afraid about it. And then Jill was like, yeah, and Jack was like, yeah, that's actually the mannequin that his date Jane and Jill was like actually that's the mannequin is date Jill. That's the mannequin from yesterday, essentially, that he bought the original sundress from, right? And then they were like, could the mannequin be I want to make the story short so that we don't like make it extremely long. I want it to be like a short story. Very cool. So they were like, could the mannequin be real, essentially? Could the mannequin talk? And so they were like, let's go upstairs and investigate. So they went upstairs and went to the attic. And, the mannequin was like on the floor when Jack left the mannequin, right? And then they discovered the mannequin had been standing, right? So they were like, so they tried to like talk to the mannequin. He shook it, like, talk. Jack was shaking it, like, talk. He called out him, but the mannequin was just static. He didn't talk, right? So they were like, are they crazy? Are they running mad? Yeah. So Jack decided to text his friend. Let's say his friend's name is, I don't know, Jimmy, right? So he told Jimmy about the whole thing, and then Jimmy would not believe it. He was just laughing. I was like, it's a lie that is like, it's stupid, that is lying and everything. So then, but Jack was trying to convince Jimmy that is the truth. And then Jimmy now gave Jack an idea. He was like, that Jack is like Jack is like a creep, essentially. That Jack is like all this like weird doomsday people that believes that the world is coming to an end. So his bunker, for instance, is filled with all these like supplies of food and everything. Yeah. And then inside his house here is cameras. There are cameras everywhere. So Jimmy's friend was like, okay, since he has cameras everywhere in his house, and why does he not check the camera footage from yesterday to see what happened? So he was like, yes. How did he forget? Yeah. So he ran into his basement, into his room where he had like this computer setup, which is like nah. He's using a studio display from Apple. So let's say he uses a studio display from Apple because I want to buy a monitor. I've been begging my sister to give me money to buy a monitor. My next payment from Apple is not going to be till, I don't know, I think September 4th. And I want to buy a monitor, right? That's the next payout from Apple. So I just have enough money to pay my rent and stuff, right? So I can't afford to buy a monitor, and I need a monitor to work. Do you understand? And I've been begging my sister. Meanwhile, my sister just bought a car yesterday. Okay, sorry. So what was I saying? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's just say studio display because I want to buy a studio display. I need to buy a studio display. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So the guy has like a studio display in his house. Yeah. So in his studio display, that's why we're being like super specific here. So studio display. He checks on his studio display connected to his Mac Studio. No, let's say Mac Mini because I want to buy Mac Mini too. The new M4 Mac Mini, the tiny M4 Mac Mini. So the M4 Mac Mini connected to his studio display, and then he looks back at the footage from yesterday, and then he sees when he stumbles, he enters the house, enters the attic drunk, how the mannequin saved him from falling and hitting his head on a nail, because there was actually an exposed nail, and if he had hit his head on a nail, he would have died. So she literally just saved his life. She saw everything, and he was like, well, how is this possible? It's a mannequin. So his sister was also watching, and then they ran upstairs, and to go and... they ran upstairs, but by the time they were running upstairs, they had like a glass breaking. Apparently, Jill had jumped out through the window, right? And then she was running, and then she got inside like Jack's car, right? And then she drove the car, and then so Jack also came downstairs with his sister, and then he went inside the car, and then he started chasing, and then they started and then there was like a car chase scene essentially. And then Jimmy, their neighbor, right, which is like also doubles as Jack's friend, right? He saw the whole thing, so he called the police. So there was like this car chase through Los Angeles essentially. But this is not like, Los Angeles is famous for like car chases because there are helicopters everywhere. But this one is different because the person they are chasing is literally like a Barbie driving a car. Yeah. And then there's this car chase scene, yeah. There's this car chasing, so they were chasing. So it's this hot car chasing through like Los Angeles, Just imagine a car chase going through downtown LA to like Burbank, Atwater Village, just everywhere, like really nice car chasing. Eventually, the police catch up with the car. The car just stops abruptly, and then police catch up with the car, and then they open the car, and the mannequin just fell down. And they were like, wait. So in their mind, they were like, is this a robot? They took the hands up, like, is this a robot? Is this? But the mannequin was not responding. But they had seen the mannequin driving, yeah. Okay, you know what we'll do? We'll say the car is a we'll say Jack drives a Tesla. Okay, cool, right? So the police were like, oh, so the mannequin fell down. So the police were like, this doesn't make sense. And they realized it was a Tesla, that, it's a self-driving car, right? So they were like, it must have been that. So they were like, they were going to arrest Jack for putting a mannequin in the driver's seat and letting it drive across, essentially causing they just arrested Jack essentially. When Jack was trying to explain to them that no, there's a mannequin that drove it, and we were like, are you crazy? His sister too was trying to explain to them that it was a mannequin that drove it. Jimmy too was trying to explain to them that it was a mannequin that drove it, right? And it was like he has video proof in his house. He has camera. They just put his head inside the car and he drove me away. But okay, so why was the mannequin irresponsive, right? Well, apparently Jill had actually, she didn't die actually. She actually woke up in the hospital. She entered, like, she was just unconscious for a while. So she had woken up in the hospital. And then she realized that it was the chain that she was wearing, that necklace that she was wearing, that allowed her to like switch bodies with the mannequin, essentially. So she woke up in the hospital, and then the doctor was like, she's free to go, that she just had like a concussion, and she was like, she passed out for like a day and a half, and she's kind of like, she's stable now and she can go. So she went to Jack's house, and then Jack came back in the evening. Jack's mom and his dad, they went to bail him from the no, that's not, yeah, they went to bail him from like what's that thing called? From the police department, LAPD essentially. They went to bail him from the county essentially. And then when he came home, he saw her sitting on the pavement. And then he was like, wait, that she won't believe what happened. Da, 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 da. And then she was like, she understands, and that she was going to tell him everything when he entered the house. The end. Bye-bye. So I don't know what to call the story. Maybe I'll call it Dated, or I call it like The Mannequin, or I call it Thrift Store. I don't even know what to call it. Bye-bye. We'll find a name. I'll ask you the Bye-bye. Okay, cool. So we're going to call it Thrifted. The title is Thrifted. Thrifted. Yeah, with shopping bags. Thrifted, essentially. So the idea came to me when I was watching. There's this girl on YouTube. Her name is Saoirse's Shelf. She does like book reviews. So I was watching her book review, and then the OSP gave me the idea for the story. Bye-bye. So the main character, Jill, her face will be the mannequin, and then main character, Jill, her face will be modeled after her, essentially. And she has a pretty face, by the way, so it kind of checks out. Bye-bye. Okay, sorry, one last thing, right? So the ending scene is they show like all of a sudden they just show another store. They show somebody picking up the mannequin after the police have cleared up the whole thing. Yeah, there's like yellow tape everywhere, and somebody creeps. There's a girl that creeps under the yellow tape. She drags the mannequin, and then she takes the mannequin into her store and puts a new dress on the mannequin with the necklace on the mannequin, and then the camera zooms out, and then you see the mannequin inside like this show glass, and then it just zooms out and zooms out and zooms out and zooms out into the sky. So essentially the mannequin is waiting for the next victim, something like that. And then Camel Super Twister plays. You know that part of the song? creepy as fuck. Yeah, again, it was the Holy Spirit that told me. Okay, this one's final Wi-Fi.